Well, good morning again, and today something slightly different. I'm going to be talking to a lady called Jenny Bailey, who is from Tales from Mother Earth. Really good reason behind this. For those that know me, you know I like to talk. Know me well, you know I like to talk a lot about wildlife. And I'm in the very, very fortunate position that I work for Penthorpe as the Wildlife Education Officer, and I get to talk to a lot of families and school kids. And I think that, you know, education at certainly an early age is really, really key if we're going to see sort of children take over a world that they can then look after, for want of a better phrase. So it's really important that we do educate, and we educate from an early age. I came across basically Jenny's book via LinkedIn, of all places. I mean, the one bit of social media you wouldn't expect to come across something like that. I came across Jenny and thought it'd be a really good idea, because of this education part of me, to talk to Jenny about this new project that she's got. So first of all, welcome, Jenny.
Hello, Allan. Hello.
Morning. I think the best bit is just to set the scene. If you can just give us a little bit of background, first of all, about yourself, then we'll go on to talk about your venture. But if you can give us a little bit of background about you and where the passion comes from for wildlife.
Oh, wow, goodness. Where the passion comes from wildlife, that's such a large question, in all honesty, because, excuse me, I've always loved wildlife. I guess it's from seeing it and being glued to all the television programs and the series, whether it's the Deadly 60s or the Planet Earth or the Life on Earth or the David Attenborough series that have been out there. Even right back when I was a child, I used to be glued to all the wildlife. And also the fact that I think when we were children, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, wildlife was all around us. And we kind of took it for granted. I went up the woods once with my camera because I was a very keen photographer, and I saw this beautiful fox just walk up to me, and I was absolutely dumbfounded and rigid to the spot. I couldn't even bring my camera up to my face to actually take the picture because I was so shocked, I think, in a way. But it was amazing, and it would have been the picture of my life in a way, because all the trees were russet and green and red and beautiful colours, and this beautiful fox, and it just looked at me, and we kind of stared each other out, working out friend or foe, I guess, in a way. You know, should I be in danger in some way? And then it just trotted off, and then I ran all the way home.
And how old were you then?
I must have been probably about 12. We were very lucky. We had woods at the back of our house, just down a path, and then it was beautiful woodland. I was very lucky to grow up in the countryside. And I remember Dad having to go at the rabbits because they were forever nicking his lettuces in the morning, and we used to open the curtains and see the rabbits scurrying in the garden. And like I said, I just took it for granted. But now I'm a mother of 2 boys, and they're now aged 9 and 11 years. I think it's very much a case that I want them to experience that, and I want them to have that. And when I found out really that wouldn't be for them, and obviously we're realizing as nature is declining and our wildlife is declining and insects are declining, that it's not going to be as easy as it was for us, because they're in trouble, and it's a really a troubled time in the world for wildlife. And so really I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to join the cause in a way, and do what I could do for conservation.
Which brings us nicely to Tales from Mother Earth.
Yeah.
This is a project that you started relatively recently, is that right?
Relatively recently. I was working in an agile organisation last year. And what happened, as I said, I've always loved wildlife, and I've always encouraged my children to respect and look after wildlife, and we've gone and done beach cleans, and we've picked up litter, and we feed the birds regularly, even from feeding the ducks when they were tiny. I mean, I've brought them up to consider nature and how beautiful it is and respect it. But when I heard David Attenborough actually say that the Garden of Eden is no more last year, that did something in me that I just thought, I need to do more. I need to do so much more. And then also around that time, I think the report came out about the insects declining.
Yeah.
And it became very apparent that, I remember when I first started to drive, we used to have to take the insects off the windscreen, didn't we? Because
Exactly,
there was so many being caught on the windscreen. And that's just doesn't happen these days, does it? So that compelled me in a ferocious way, I think, really, to use a phrase, to fill my garden with lavender, to feed the birds more regularly, to put bird boxes up in the woods, to plant wild flower seeds in the woods. We did all we could, really. We carried on with our beach cleans, and we carried out picking up litter, and we just went around and did all we can. And my son adores nature, or both of my sons adored nature, and I needed to do something more. And then when I was looking around, I still thought, no, I need to do more about this. So I got my, where I was working at the time, we had 11 floors in the company where I was working, and I got them all to do the crisp recycle scheme. So that's all happening now. And we got bird feeders out on the roof parts of where I was working as well. But I needed to do more for myself. I needed to do more to know that I was helping the cause. I needed to do all I could do, I guess, really. And I was looking for something more. So whilst I was talking to a dear friend of mine one evening in June, actually it was, the idea kind of came about, really. It really did. I'd been thinking about it for some time in terms of I need to do more. She's a voiceover artist. She's now called Mother Earth, funnily enough.
Oh, right.
But she's a voiceover
Literally,
artist.
or just...
Sorry?
She's literally called Mother Earth, or she hasn't changed it by proxy?
She's known as Mother Earth by a few children, but we won't tell her name. It's quite
right,
funny,
okay.
actually. But I know Mother Earth. It's great, and she's my business partner in this, I guess, really. But we were chatting, and I said, we need to do more. What can we do? And we came up with the idea. And I said, well, you need to write some stories. And she was like, well, I can't write stories, Jen. And I just went, right, I'll write the story. The first one will be about a bee, because it was in my mind, I guess, really. And I said, we'll be called Tales from Mother Earth. And it went from there. And within the next 5 days, I think, I'd given her, Phoebe the bee, the story to read to her children. And I read it to my children as well. And my children helped me in some of the research of it. And it's just come about, really. And then, since June, we've now written 7 books. So we've got Bandit the Blue Tit, we've got Piper the Bat, we've got the Bug Hotel, which is a particular favourite of mine because it's all about how these bugs traverse my garden, really, and all the different environments in the garden. And we've got Spike the Hedgehog, but the first one is Phoebe the Bee. And I think we've started with one of the most important.
Yeah, I think, it's quite ironic that that's the one you start with, given the interview I did with Dave Goldson yesterday, which almost set the scene, really, for this conversation, because, clearly pollinators are in trouble, and they do need help. And like I've already said, educating people at a very young age to understand that, as long as we sort of do everything we can now, to make sure that what they're inheriting, they can continue to look after, they can continue to develop and help thrive, then that's great. So I think, yesterday, we got a key message across to, so adults. What you're doing here is really getting that same message across to children. And as I say, choosing sort of a pollinator, a bee, as the first one is great. But reading on your website about your book, it's more than a book. I hate to use the phrase because I'm an absolute book fanatic, and I don't think there's anything that's more than just a book.
Sure.
But it is more than just a book, because you've gone down the route of not just having a book, you've got activities in it, you've also got a CD in it. So can you just give us a little bit of background to what that is and what your aim is with that?
Sure, absolutely. Once we realised what we actually wanted with an audiobook, because of having the voice and a fantastic voice of Mother Earth, we needed then the music to complement the story, and we needed amazing illustrations, and we needed a story editor. So what we've actually done is 5 of us that are extremely passionate about conservation have come together to form Tales from Mother Earth. And when I was putting the book together, because I'm a mum, I guess, I know children need those reinforcements when they read a book. They like to have a crossword, and they like to have a puzzle, and they like to have colouring in pages. And so we came up with the idea of the fun facts, the puzzle pages. And also, I think one of the most important things right from the start, we said it should be a story about realistic animals, insects and birds, and how they're coping in today's society in the troubled conditions that we're in currently, how they're coping, and what we can do to help them, but not necessarily what the experts can do, what Joe Public can do, really.
Yeah.
And most importantly, the children. So we're aiming our book from like a 3-year-old right the way through to an 11-year-old, because the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old can learn with the read-along part of the CD, because we've also done a read-along recording. They can read about it, learn to read at the same time, so it can be a very good educational tool for them. And then obviously everybody else that reads it and then gets to the point where they get involved and go out to their garden and plant some wildflower seeds, for instance, then they can actually see the benefit in 3 or 4 months' time when they grow, that the bee's actually going to come, and they're going to see that firsthand for themselves and feel empowered because they've actually done that and they've actually made that happen. And I think if we can be part in that process to engage with children and that generation to actually understand that they can help this, I think that's wonderful. I think that's just fantastic. And that's what we're setting out to do.
And I think that's a really important message. What I find in my educational, in my day job, for want of a better phrase, is that if you can get children sort of interacting, so hands-on and seeing things and, you know, being close to wildlife, that's great. To take it that step further, which is what you've done with your activities, we had a nest box building. That's actually harder to say than it sounds. Nest
box building
activity at Pensthorpe, and the kids loved it. They took over Wildlife, the education centre, and it sounded like a woodpecker convention because there was all this banging going on. But they all loved the fact that they built this box. Now, obviously, I can't follow that up, but I can only imagine the excitement that they're going to feel when something goes into that box.
Absolutely.
Because they've made it, and it's the same with building insect homes. So I think it's really sort of key that sort of follow-up, that kind of follow-up and activities that bring the book to life and reinforce the book. And, you know, the same with sort of bug houses, if they build bug houses and all the rest of it, you know, that's really good. So I really like the concept of having that practical element of it that brings the whole book to life for them so that they can actually see it enacted in front of them. So that's really great. What you did do is you talked quite a bit about the book, and I'm at a disadvantage because yesterday I could wave Dave's book around. I haven't got one of your books yet because we sort of only met online about 4 days ago.
Yeah. I need to send you one.
Yeah, please. Could you just sort of hold your book up and just sort of show a few pages so that, you know, we can just get an idea? So I mean the illustrations, first of all, I can't remember the name of the lady that I saw on the website that did
Emily.
them.
Yeah, Emily's our illustrator, and right from the start we wanted realistic images. We didn't want a cartoon image. We didn't want it to be a cartoon representation of an animal or insect or bird. We wanted it to be realistic, anatomy, everything correct. So yeah, and I think with Emily's illustrations and what we've achieved with it is really bright, colourful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful illustrations. Because and when we were testing this as well, we had a prototype and we were testing Phoebe the bee. A lot of comments were coming back to us saying it's great because the images are so large in a way, so you're almost like in there with them. You're in there with the insects, and yeah, she's obviously sitting on her dandelion, and we're telling people how important dandelions are for bees and gardens, and letting people leave a part of their garden for it to grow wild. I love you. I'll show you my favourite one. Hang on. Oh, okay. Hang on. Let's see. There we go.
Yeah.
And then, like I was saying, at the back of the book, we've got those extra bits. So we've got the all-important "Please help our bees" the conservation message, which is there to dedicate a part of your area of your garden or window box to bee-friendly wildflowers. Let your lawn grow, allowing clover, daisies and Phoebe's favourite dandelions to thrive. In a saucer, because it needs to be a shallow area for bees to actually get a drink to take back to the hive, and provide a bee house. And then we've also linked in with other great organisations that are on our website for more information, really, because they're the experts in a way. So I thought it made sense to link in with expert organisations that are doing this and have done this for a number of years, and we can collaborate with them. And then also, this is really interesting to a lot of children. This is the did you know, the fun facts, if you like, all about bees. And people don't know that bees have 5 eyes, for instance, and they don't know that. I mean, when we go and do the school assemblies, story workshops that we've done for Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 in primary schools, children don't realise that bees have been on the planet for such a long time. And they don't realise that bees only make a 1/12 of a teaspoon in their lifetime of honey. That's a real shock to them. So we have this activity where we send a volunteer round the hall, picking up little pockets of nectar and pollen that we put on the flowers, and they bring them back, and then we show them. And it's just quite an amazing when you engage with children like that, and they can see, and it clicks. And then we say, you know, what do we need to do to help bees? And you know, we need to plant more flowers, and we need to look after them. And it's just great. We leave and we're all on such a high, and we're on such an understanding that we can do something. You know, one person can make a difference, and it's all about that we bring to the schools. The other thing is we've got a colouring in picture there that we've actually put out on our social media and our websites, so people can do that. And we're having lovely pictures being sent back into us, colouring in Phoebe the bee, which is great. So obviously in this period of time at the moment, people are colouring it in and finding things to do with their children, and that seems to be quite popular, which is great. And then underlying obviously the story is the crossword there, which all these words really are in the story. So it's all about they're all mentioned in the story, and they're sentences from the story, so you just need to find the missing word, and that makes the crossword. And then that's the next one, all about Spike the Hedgehog, because we're looking to help hedgehogs in our next book. And that's all about making the Hedgehog Highway available, really. And that's a whole nother conversation, probably for another day. But that's also where people can get involved and people can help wildlife. And they can feel empowered because they can actually draw wildlife into their garden, and they can see the results of their actions, which I think is what all of this is all about. At the back also we have the CD, which I have an amazing composer, Chris Simons. He's in our team. He lives up in Wales, and he writes the most amazing, beautiful music. So we've got Phoebe's theme that runs along the Mother Earth's narration, and also the read along. And then we've got Mother Earth's theme, which when we tested it, Alan, it's like a lullaby. When we tested it at nurseries and such, children relaxed and well, they wanted them to have a quiet time, and they were all lying down on the floor, and it was peaceful. It was lovely.
Oh, there you go. Then you've succeeded in something for the parents as well. Yeah. Okay, so the one thing that you've avoided, and you won't have done it on purpose, but it pays to name drop. Who's given you a quote for the outside back?
Oh, the outside back. Yes. It's Chris Packham. I wrote to him because I wrote to a few people. I wrote to David Attenborough as well, in all honesty, because for me personally, I wanted to let him know what we were doing, because obviously he's out there waving the flag, as everybody is, saying, come on, world, we need to wake up. We need to help our wildlife. We need to re-engage children. And I felt the cause, and I wrote to him, and he wrote us a lovely letter back saying, wishing us all the best with Phoebe the bee and her many other creature friends that are out there. But I also wrote to Chris Packham, and yes, he's provided us a lovely, lovely quote. So would you like me to read it for the back of the book?
Yeah, I think you should.
It's, as crop pollinators, honeybees are vital for our existence. Therefore, it is essential we provide them with the right environment to thrive. Please be kind. And that's obviously Chris Packham, broadcaster, environmentalist and author. And it's a huge thank you to him, really, for doing that for us. We really, really do appreciate it. And the other one I think we should say is the British Wildlife Centre down there in Lingfield. They do amazing work, and their logo is on the back as well. So it's just great that we can all collaborate and come together to achieve, hopefully, lasting change. That's our mission, really. That's what we want to do. We want to bring about an awareness, like you're saying, and an engagement that can help. And if we've done that, then we've done something really good.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing, I mean, what strikes me there is obviously you mentioned an organisation, a conservation organisation. You mentioned David Attenborough. You mentioned Chris Packham.
Yeah.
It's yourselves, and you know it's a collaborative approach. You know, everybody's involved. This affects everybody. So you know, conservation isn't just for the animals, as we heard from David yesterday. It was only very briefly that I touched on the fact that you know pesticides are impacting on humans as well. Mm. We can see, you know, what's happening at the moment. You know, we need to start looking after the world if we want to sort of make it right for our kids and also right for us now. So okay. I think, you know, it was a great sort of, you know, mission was a great thing to end the interview with. Just one more thing, and that is, I know the book is available around the sort of Kent area at the moment. Can people get that from your website?
Yes, they can. If they go for it to talesfrommmotherearth.co.uk, you can actually also hear an audio snippet on there. It's just the introduction, really, but it gives you an idea of how the tone is, if you like, of the story. So yes, just go to the website. We're also on Facebook and we're also on Twitter as well. We do write blogs. I wrote a blog recently about spring and the fact that spring is out there, and I think everyone's saying it at the moment. We're all going through a terrible time, but if we look at the nature, we can get some solace from that, definitely, and we can feel better about the fact that the sun's shining, and I've never seen the sky so blue really at the moment. It's incredible out there, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And we've got to keep our spirits up, and we've got to obviously look after everybody and stay safe. But we can still appreciate the little things, and to see ladybirds in the garden yesterday and the bees buzzing around doing what they do. We you know, it's a difficult time, yes, but I do believe this is so worthwhile, and we have to look after our wildlife continually. Really, we can't just say, well, we've got something else to take our minds off this at the moment and forget about the environment. That can't happen. And I think it can almost go hand in hand in some respects, because we can't take our eye off the fact that our wildlife is in trouble and it needs our help, and we can help it.
I can't say anything more than that. That's a great message to end with. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Alan,
I will put links on the video and on my website that sort of come back to some of your key pages on your website. Good luck with the venture. I hope it goes well. It's clearly sort of a difficult time to be launching, but I'm sure it will, because it's needed. And good luck with it. And thanks ever so much for your time today.
Thank you, Alan. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity. It is a crazy time to launch, isn't it? But because it's worthwhile and because it's something good in the world, we're going to continue, definitely.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Jenny.
Thank you, Alan. Take care. Keep safe.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.